So you were on a submarine for 7 years?
What was the pattern? Was it like 1 month in, 1 month out?
There were two reasons why the walk-in freezers were so big, and one of which was if somebody died while you're on station, you had to have a place to put the body until you can get back off station. And,
how would you define success outside of the financial piece? So what else happened this week? Oh, so this is something else I wanted to talk to you about because I'm a big fan of just having confidence, and I don't know that I always have confidence. Like I'm always working on that. But there's an element to me that I think about what makes somebody look more confident. What are the factors? And obviously there's some people just confident as leaders that you're impressed with, but what are these little accessories that you can use for confidence? And one of them I thought about is chewing gum. Like sometimes when people are chewing gum, it just makes you look kind of like you know what you're doing, or you just like, yeah, I got so much.
Where do you hang out?
Down by the gum wall at Pike Place Market. Got a confident people down there.
Yeah, overly confident.
Overly confident.
They excel in one area, by the way.
Sticking gum on the wall. But if you see somebody chewing gum, what is your thought? Are they like, they might have bad breath. They might just be doing it for just to keep themselves busy. But part of me thinks like it just has this kind of like, I got so much, I could chew gum and I could do this. Like, does it have like a
that may be coming from the I don't give a shit routine on things. If people are chewing gum.
That, yeah.
Most people don't chew gum these days, right? I chew a little bit when I'm flying or something like that for, just a
ear
refresh
stuff, or
ear stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
On that sort of thing. But,
right.
But it also, it matters to me how they're chewing the gum.
Oh, yeah.
If you can
point.
see the gum sticking out of their mouth while they're chewing, or there's loud snapping sounds, all of that.
That's annoying.
That's annoying.
But what about the blowing the bubbles? We've talked about that. What is that? Is that a confidence thing? You blow a bubble. Baseball guys do it.
Yeah, I think. Baseball, that's different, right? But just in general, I think if somebody pops out a bubble, I kind of give them points to that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure it's confidence. I think it's sass. Is that the same thing?
That's true. You don't really see people just sitting in an airport blowing bubbles anymore, though, right?
Not really.
It's not. That's like it's a bit of a 1950s thing.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't even allow gum on planes back in the 1950s.
Singapore still don't.
Singapore, they're tight on that. Yeah. I've heard about that. So, anyways, so confidence, gum, maybe not so much. So accents, like I've often thought, like both my boys and you went to Boston, the boys are in Boston. I always thought like Bostonians and people on the East Coast, just they come across with confidence with the accent.
It's the in your face.
Is that what you think?
It's half a step away from I will kill you.
Yeah, that's true.
It does pan out. It does.
But they're fast. Like they talk fast, and I do feel like it's just like an implied confidence.
I think it's I don't know if I see confidence. I think it's a trick in a way. Maybe maybe a chunk of confidence falls into that category. But I do think it's can I lean in? Can I be a little loud? Can I be a little fast? Can I be a little abrasive? Yeah, that sort of thing. It's convincing, intimidating, maybe more than that.
Okay. Well, we got a great show coming up today. We have a guest that we're pretty excited about. And do you know a lot about our guest? Do you want to do like a short intro of our guest?
Well, he is someone I've known for a number of years. He grew up here in the neighborhood and went off to Cornell for college, played soccer there, but he went off in an ROTC scholarship for Navy ROTC. And after graduation, spent a number of years as a submariner, where he was up in the North Caps doing a lot of underwater work there. And then when he graduated, he did a fellowship in business and energy and moved into a professional career of energy trading and energy regulation.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to interview him today.
Yeah.
I know him as well. You know him better than I do, but he's a smart guy. So we're going to have to work pretty hard to look smart around him. Yeah. You might need to pull most of that weight, by the way.
No.
Yeah. So you were on a submarine for 7 years.
What was the pattern? Was it like 1 month in, 1 month out?
So I was actually attached to the Pargo for almost 5 years. The pattern, on average, I ran this number at one point. We were gone from home port over that period about 2/3 of the time. And it cost me a girlfriend. In hindsight, didn't like her much anyway.
Worked out.
But
legally, you have to say that now that you're married, right?
That's right. But very impressed with the young couples that could deal with that and survive that. So the longest the pattern is your submarine comes out of a dry dock period. In our case, $300 million worth of new equipment, lots in the sonar shack, propulsion, etc. And then you work for about a year training the crew, tuning the systems, etc. And then you're really considered, fully operational. And given what was going on geopolitically, we were gone a lot. And so I spent a fair bit of time when not on station up in the North Atlantic, sort of R&Ring, if that's a word, R&Ring in Sardinia, just north of Sardinia, where we had what's called a sanctuary, a place you go to burn off a little steam, or in southern France. And, there are worse places in Europe, let me tell you.
Southern France, good spot. So,
yeah.
So you wanted to command your own submarine. That was the trajectory that you thought about. And then at some point they just said, we've watched your driving skills. We're not, what happened?
You hit another, didn't you? You did. Come on.
How many torpedoes did you shoot at the wrong submarines? That's what we want to know.
Statute of limitations is way past here, Christopher. Time to fess up.
It is amazing. The topside watch lost a single bullet overboard. They always say there's nothing worse than a peacetime Navy. The red tape that our weapons officer had to go through to account for a missing bullet in peacetime.
Oh, really?
Quite something. Yeah.
Wow.
But back to your question, so it was an interesting kind of a crucible of leadership. I know that sounds silly, but my first commanding officer seemed great to me. But then when my second commanding officer relieved him normal course about a year and a half into my time on the submarine, the difference between the two was inspiring. And that is why I wanted to become a commanding officer. Watching him lead what had been a submarine at the very bottom of the squadron. So a 7-submarine squadron, you get ranked every year. We were very proudly 7 out of 7.
What makes you 7 out of 7? Like, what gets you to that place on the totem pole?
You do poorly on a lot of exams, not written exams, but you're out at sea going through exercises, and teams come out and they're watching you, they're grading you. It's intense.
Gotcha.
And so
you're like, the
Lucio
torpedoes
arrives.
in backwards, Christopher. That's a check. Okay. All right.
Who forgot to shut the door?
Yeah, or there's a spot of oil here. Where'd that come from? Or, hey, what's this rust doing over here? It's all that stuff.
Yeah, don't worry about that. That's all good.
What was the difference that you saw?
Trust. So he did not micromanage me. In fact, when he arrived, he sat us down as a wardroom. So you're about 18 officers, about 105 crew are enlisted. And that's the team that's going to make this submarine hum or not. He sat the officers down and he said, I'm going to be the first man ashore. The old CO was always, hanging around with nothing better to do or really micromanaging the skeleton crew that stayed on board when we're in port. New CO arrives, I'm going to be the first man on board because if I can't trust you to properly secure this submarine when we come into port, then I'm going to replace you. Any questions? And I just thought that was so wonderfully refreshing and empowering.
So he would get off the submarine first, is what you're saying?
Just about. There are a few others, but he would typically trust us to shut down the reactor, secure the vessel, et cetera. Now, he wouldn't leave until the reactor is shut down, but point was, he wasn't going to sit around and make sure we knew what we were doing. Instead, he was going to trust we did, and if we didn't, he was going to take action. It just really was a fascinating learning experience, and watching the crew respond to that was really the amazing journey, the amazing part of that. So watching him and how he took the same equipment, same crew, and inspired them from being, way below average to excellent. It was a lot.
That's impressive.
So
Yeah, one time.
bring that down a little further, which I'm not sure leadership books have been written by folks a lot smarter than me on this, but was there a vacuum that you guys then stood up to fill, or was it because you didn't feel pushed down in a way that was micromanaging the process?
Second, not the first.
Okay.
We really, everyone knew what they were supposed to do, but there's a difference when it's me. I can't rely on. No one's looking over my shoulder. I either get it right and we get it right, or I get it wrong and we get it wrong. And that was, again, I don't know what buzzword, what it would say on the poster in the conference room at some office here, the power of positive, whatever.
Yeah.
Just watching how when you expect people to rise to the occasion, I'll be damned if they do.
Yeah.
And that times 100 and whatever we were on that submarine was the difference between poor performance and excellent. Anyway,
excellent.
Loved
That's
that.
interesting.
Loved watching it. I wanted to be in a position to try and do that as well. Started working in Germany, in Frankfurt, and this now is 92, 93. So 4 or 5 years after the wall had come down. Well, the former East Germany was just a wasteland. I mean, you realize the old Soviet Union had not put any money into anything. In fact, they had taken a lot of stuff that had value back to Russia. So in my line of work, starting out in the power space, all the power stations, the transmission lines, all that stuff needed immense investment. And the point of that is in East Germany, where I was working then a lot. So I'd commute over on Monday from Frankfurt, about a 3-hour drive, and then commute back Thursday and Friday. Most of those people didn't speak English. In fact, more spoke Russian than English.
Interesting.
And in many cases, I was the first American they'd ever met. It's fascinating.
Were you there when the wall came down?
No, I was on the submarine.
Oh, you were on the submarine. Okay, gotcha.
And how did you, after the fellowship, you got into the energy sector? How did that happen?
Well, the engineering degree and submarine. So the first year of submarine training is nuclear engineering. So I was down in Orlando and then up in Saratoga. So anyway, it's a lot of technical work, and a submarine is an underwater generating plant. So it's a pretty natural progression to how a lot of people do it. The specific answer is one of those buddy of mine stories. So buddy of mine calls me and says, "Hey, are you about done with that stupid fellowship you're doing? And anyway, what is that all about?" I was having a great time. I mean, you work for a while and then go back as a student. I can't remember. Have either of you? Did you go straight through your studies, or did you take a break?
Yeah, I went straight from elementary school right to middle school.
Never looked back.
Well, I was done.
Well, had you taken a bit of a pause between those, you'd have approached middle school in a totally different way.
That's probably true.
A gap year, as it were.
But no, it was just a pretty natural step. And a buddy of mine calls and says, "Well, I know we're looking for somebody to be our man in Europe. Are you interested?" And that led to it. But an interesting period, great company, because I had to do everything, and I learned a ton. And that's one of the things I do tell, youngsters when I talk to them is, don't be afraid of a role that you really go into it not knowing much about what you're going to be doing. It's amazing how you learn. And that proved it continues to pay dividends.
So at some point you ended up at Enron. Where's that pathway? How did you end up there?
Yeah, that was, by then my parents are living on Vashon. So when I went from Enron to Goldman Sachs, my parents kind of professionally disowned me because they couldn't mention me to all their friends out in the liberal sphere of Vashon. I mean, gosh, Enron and then Goldman. By then, Goldman was the vampire squid of
that's right.
Rolling Stone article fame.
But you personally found the whole vampire squid thing attractive.
At least, but Enron needed somebody who could speak German, who knew energy, and stumbled across me. And it was one of those, I don't know, have you guys ever done a job interview where you know you're going to get the job? It truly is. an exercise in, playing through a script, because you have to spend an hour together, but you just, the thing they needed was me. And really no one else. It was one of these one-of-one scenarios. So if we go through the charade of the interviews, just, I guess, so they could tell HR that they'd interviewed me. I was there 5 years when they hit the wall, went bankrupt. And it was all in Europe with Enron.
Ah, okay. Gotcha.
But that's an experience. In 1 year, I had our first child, moved to London, and had Enron go bankrupt. That was 2001. Wow. Yeah, that was an exciting year.
Well, I remember this money manager I once talked to. I still know him, and he had an interesting thing they did where they put stock certificates on the wall of their headquarters for the positions that they learned lessons from, and they framed them, and then they would put the lesson learned at the bottom of the stock certificate. And what this money manager says, he said that under the Enron stock certificate, he said that you can sit across the table from a CEO or a CFO, and you can ask them questions and they can lie to your face. And that was on the wall, and it was interesting because that was his lesson as a money manager. He said, we learned from that. You can't always know if you're getting the right information. So I thought it was an interesting, they call it their mistake wall. So
I did take Jeff Skilling to Oktoberfest. So I was their man in Germany. By then we had 50 people.
Oh, yeah.
And somewhere I've got a picture of two of us with Jeff Skilling. And I will, to the point you just made, Gary, he truly could have talked a dog off of me. I mean, that guy was
good sales guy.
Well, beyond that, it was a religious experience listening to him talk.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, it's a fascinating place in history for lots of different reasons. But
it is. I will tell you, the reason I came out of it intact has nothing to do with business acumen or anything else. When we moved back to London, we go house hunting, and London in January is not very green. In fact, there's one shade of gray, and that's it. So we go house hunting. We see this place it opened up on one of these communal gardens. I was tired. I was grumpy. I don't know. And at one point, Andrea turns to me and says, "Well, I'm sure your plans, but I plan to raise," we had one daughter at that point, "I plan to raise Vita in this house." So we bought the house. Now, to buy the house, which I was convinced was overpriced, we had to sell a bunch of Enron shares, which I was convinced was underpriced and was going to continue to go up dramatically.
Oh my gosh.
I have a different wall. It's sort of the trade tickets on those trades. And when, as sometimes happens, you get a little bit annoyed or angry with I'll pull those trade tickets and I'll look at them again just to remind me how different my life would have been had Andrea not said, "Well, I don't know your plans, but we're raising our daughter in this home."
So you just got lucky. You just got lucky that
nothing but luck. My father always said, with a twinkle in his eye, better lucky than smart. Now, he didn't believe that deep down, but I think luck and I think serendipity have smiled on me in my life.
So then, but when you went with Goldman Sachs, you moved to Singapore.
Well, not initially. So we were in London. We loved London. And then Kira was born. And then 3 years later, Romy was born. They were both born in London. And we had that gray, nasty garden I talked about earlier. Well, come to find out, in spring and summer, it's beautiful. And it ended up being one of those communal gardens like you see, and I don't know if you've seen Notting Hill, but those communal gardens. And we happened to be on this one garden that was magically full of young families with young kids. And it's about 2 acres surrounded by these old Georgian row houses. So both a great space to play and quite safe in a big space. And so we were there for 9 years.
Oh, wow.
Loved it. And
what part of London was that in?
It was in Notting Hill.
Notting Hill. Okay, it was Notting Hill.
Yeah.
Okay.
And while we were there, Halloween kind of became popular. And living at the time, then in Notting Hill, you'd see, some famous people, movie stars, Murdochs, they'd come by trick or treating. I mean, it was really kind of neat.
Wow.
An interesting time in certainly in our family, and I think that was a neat time to be in Notting Hill as well. It really was a lot of fun. But we decided, so the last 5 years of that, I was with Goldman, and but before the financial crisis, they had asked, "Hey, we need some help in Singapore. You want to go over? You want to lead that sales effort over there?" And we were doing. The desk was doing very well in UK and Western European gas and power. And you guys know, if you're running a desk that's doing well, you do not leave that. And so for a few years, that was just a very exciting, a lot going on, and very successful. In the finance, so they asked in 2007, and I said no. Don't want to go to Singapore. The financial crisis hit. Well, you both also know, not a lot of deals done in 2008. It was all about try to stay afloat, try to manage risk, try to make sure that your counterparties pay you what they owe you, et cetera. And so they asked again, and in 08, Andre and I talked and decided, okay, we'll go ahead and move to Singapore. Kind of a funny story with that, and you guys have both, you've been in the tough sectors. Certainly at Goldman, you kind of have one opportunity to state your terms, whatever they are. So, hey, you want to go to Singapore? If you say yes or maybe, well, that you may as well have said yes. So don't bother with maybe. Maybe is a waste of oxygen. So you really have to say no, unless you're a yes. So it was late in the week. I can't remember, but my answer to the very incredibly persuasive and bright and very inspirational French woman who was the head of commodities, my answer was no, but ask me again on Monday. And she sort of looked at me kind of quizzically and then smiled and said, okay. Well, of course, in the interim, I talked to Andre. I gave it some thought. I came up with the terms. Here's what we would need to move to Singapore. And so on Monday, she calls me back in. Okay, I'm going to ask again. And then I was able to tell her, if you do this for us, we will move to Singapore. It's the last I heard for 3 months. And she called me back in. 3 acceptance letters from schools in Singapore for our 3 daughters. A few other things laid out that we had said. And this was the funny thing. Then she said, and now I'm hitting send on the global email telling everyone this is happening. So there was no way back. I had stated the terms, she'd met the terms, and she did about a 5-second countdown before hitting send on that email. And
wow. So it's like she kind of accepted the offer for you. She just said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and,
I felt, that was fair. She said, will you go? And I said, yes, if you do this.
Ah, okay.
She did that. There's no, well, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Today it's no on Friday. Ask me again on Monday. Where did that strategy come from?
That I have, occasionally I have inspirations of brilliance. That was one of them. I don't know. Honest answer, I don't know.
Just made that up on the fly.
Just made it up on the fly.
Have you used that ever? Have you used that anymore? Like,
no,
have you ever used that with Andrea? Just say, "Hey, why don't you ask me on Monday?" And
and then you come forward with your terms on Monday and see where that goes. Right. And then they don't hear anything for 3 months. And next thing you know, you're outside.
I think if I try coming forward with my well-constructed terms for anything at home, that's generally not a good strategy.
Yeah. And a PowerPoint.
Her phrase for it is she has a phrase for it. Don't give me that Goldman stuff.
Oh,
really?
Wow. Okay. That's her.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, interesting.
It's an approach. Don't give me that Goldman stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Well, she's on to you. Keeping track of you.
That's the name of your book.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Flipping back to your submarine days. What's the weirdest thing that ever happened on the submarine? Or any of your time in submarines?
Yeah, there were so many. I mean, we've been, you both and I have been places where you can just tell stories for a while, and they never end on a submarine. But the serious side of it, the physiological things that happen. So, bordering on weird, but the last housefly to be alive underwater So invariably you go down, you've got some bugs flying around there, you just like anywhere else. And then they get slower and slower for reasons that puzzled us. And bothered us. Because, it's kind of tough to swat a housefly when they're in your house. You got to work at it. A few days on a submarine, they just got slower and slower to the point where the last surviving fly, it kind of became a bit of a pet or something. I know, weird. But,
oh, really? You would like keep it? And you named it?
Well, you just sort of keep track of saw it last in cruise mess.
Did you name it, Christopher? No, did you name it? Hey guys, Bert's over here, and he's a little juicy and shiny.
But I can tell
he's not looking so good.
They wouldn't make it past a week, and it wasn't because they got swatted. So we always wondered, what's happening to us? If the flies are getting slower, what's happening to us?
Oh, yeah, good point.
So seriously, there's no explanation you have on that as to why they got slow?
No, none. And then when we would surface after a period, so after about a week, there are no germs. The air is purified continuously. There are no germs down there. Wow. So if you're out for a month or so, you surface, a significant portion of the crew gets an immediate cold within a few days.
Oh, you do. You get sick right away. Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So you realize the body. I mean, we need to be stressed. We need to be being attacked by germs if we're in a benign environment.
So you
all soft and flabby.
So you guys are just down there like, we got to cut up this fly and eat it at the end just to keep some bacteria flowing in us.
Exactly.
Yeah, dessert.
But we had, then you'd pull in somewhere. So I said earlier we were stationed out of southern France. Toulon is a big naval base, and of course the French coast is a train ride north. And it was great. It was beautiful. But you'd pull in, and you're the boiled egg on the beach. Your body hasn't seen the sun for 4 or 5 weeks.
Right.
And one weekend we zip up to Saint-Tropez and it's summer and they're just, everybody in bikinis and whatever else, just hazelnut brown. And there are a few of us, clearly parachuted in from God knows where, did not belong on that beach. But it was good fun.
So if there was a little entrepreneurial kid over there, it would have been the guy at the dock with, instead of a lemonade stand, he was selling sunscreen when you guys were rolling off the sub. Just or
one of those bronzing clinics. That probably would have been a good one too. What happened in COVID? Yeah, and you're going to laugh. You asked weird things. So when the Berlin Wall came down, everything that could trail a Soviet missile submarine went in immediately into trail. And trail means you're tracking one of their missile boats in case they decide to launch. And the West didn't know. I think, Todd, I've shared this with you, that the West didn't know for certain whether the Soviet missile submarines had the authenticator codes on board that they needed to spin up the gyros, arm the warhead, and launch a missile. And so all of the U.S. and British, mainly, submarines that could trail Soviet missile submarines were in trail. And once you're on trail, you couldn't come off station until that submarine came off station. And we didn't know how long we were going to be out. So we immediately went on food rations. I lost about 10 pounds, which for me was, that was a big deal. But the funny part of the story, and I had a PTSD flashback during COVID, is everyone squirrels away toilet paper. People seem to have this bizarre, genetically pre-programmed desire never to run out of toilet paper. So when submarines come into dry dock periods where they take all the equipment out, they'll discover several thousand rolls of toilet paper squirreled away. And I'm wondering, COVID, remember the first thing that happens? Yeah. Everybody runs out of, all the stores are out of toilet paper. I guarantee you take your average house in the U.S. and remove some paneling, you're going to find rolls of toilet paper behind that.
A leading indicator to disaster.
Yeah.
Very strange. Very strange.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know this, but heaven, lots of toilet paper. Hell, none. It's, a lot of people don't know that. But yeah, I always thought the toilet paper thing was a weird thing. It was like toilet paper and hand sanitizer. Those are the two things, right?
Hand sanitizer you kind of get.
Yeah, but toilet paper, I wasn't sure.
One.
Yeah.
The hand sanitizer, you could argue, is fear-driven. I don't know what the emotion is.
I don't know the toilet. People are really worried about that.
Could be fear-driven.
I suppose.
I mean, who hasn't?
Now, let me ask you guys, what do you think was the most important? This is a crew morale question, but what do you think was the most important piece of equipment on a submarine?
The most important piece of equipment on a submarine? It's not the periscope, even though I would kind of think that, but I'm guessing not the periscope.
Only officers could use the periscope. That's the one piece of equipment that only officers used.
Really? Oh, interesting. Okay.
Trivia.
So that's not it, because it's not universally used.
The bathroom, the head.
Loads of bathroom stories, but not the bathroom.
How many shots do we get at this?
Is it? It's something to do with the power generator, something that generates power.
No. Remember, food is important. Food and drink, that's important on a submarine, right? It's the one thing, because you're pretty busy. You're on 18 hours, so you're pretty busy most of the time. But the one thing where you get a little peace and quiet and you get to do something that isn't submarine related is meals.
Oh.
And so the soft ice cream machine belonged to the A gang, the auxiliary gang. They were in charge of all the auxiliaries, the hydraulics, all this stuff. The one piece of equipment, if it broke, that the captain had to be immediately informed of, was the ice cream machine, because that was so important. It was so important to crew morale. Can you imagine?
Wow.
And
that's the only other time the sirens went off inside the submarine is you're being attacked by a torpedo or the ice cream machine is down. Ice cream machine's down.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was probably the worst soft serve ice cream you ever had. But boy, was it good when you're after 2 or 3 weeks underwater. That's pretty darn tasty.
You get calibrated, huh?
Actually, they had this massive walk-in freezer. So the food was submarines are known for having the best food in the fleet. That's a little bit like the tallest short guy on the basketball team, but it was actually pretty darn good.
Oh, interesting.
And,
okay.
The rumor was there were 2 reasons why the walk-in freezers were so big, and one of which was if somebody died while you're on station, you had to have a place to put the body until you can get back off station. And on that happy note.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, wow.
And this was all before DoorDash, right? So you couldn't do that.
Yeah. All before DoorDash. That's right.
Well, so we like to ask a series of questions on this podcast, Christopher. So we're going to put you through our we call this the lightning round. No, we really don't. But so one of the things that we envision for these interviews is to be able to share information with young people that are getting a chance to listen to the wisdom from somebody like you. It's had a lot of great experiences, but reached places of success as well. So I guess one of the questions would be how would you define success outside of the financial piece of success? How would you define it?
Enjoying your work. I've always equated enjoyment with success. You could argue one follows the other. I believe if you aren't enjoying what you're doing, I will say if you do enjoy what you're doing, success will follow. If you don't wait around for success not to follow, because it probably won't. Get out of that and go find something you do enjoy. And that's been such a huge part of, I talked about serendipity before. It means I've never I don't have a 10-year career plan, never did. Not even a 5-year. But what I did have was some basic sort of touchstones and enjoying what I'm doing, enjoying the work I'm doing. And that really means enjoying the people I'm doing it with, would be the absolutely first piece of advice I'd give youngsters. And it's
great.
hard. It's hard, but.
Do you find you choose the next step based upon the likelihood of that? Or is that something that you find out about after you're in the new position?
If I don't like what I see during the interview process, people-wise, then I'm out. So pretty simple calculus. I think people, you would think, and I've always thought, people put their best foot forward in the interview process. Yeah. And my thinking has always been, man, if this guy, or if this man is like this, what's behind the curtain here? I know. Now, I've been fortunate. It's a strange industry in that the paths in aren't obvious. And then when you sort of get the experience, there aren't a lot of people. It's a not hugely competitive in the sense that if there's a role that you really like, you might be one of 2 or 3 or 5, not one of 20 or 50 or 100 that some other industries and sectors, totally different dynamics. So my advice, somebody who's in a hugely competitive sector where they have to work with dicks, does it translate? I still think it does. I still think you're going to be most successful if you are with people you enjoy being with and you enjoy what you're doing.
You make me think, you remind me, I haven't thought of this in a while, but my wife used to have, probably still has a saying, I just haven't heard it recently. The reason that relationships or even jobs fall apart, you knew about in the first 24 hours. So you decided to park them, and then they wind up coming back and being the actual reason why it did not work out.
I don't know because, we're all fortunate to be in wonderful relationships, but I bet there's something to that.
Hey, Todd, it's football season right now. I'm excited. The Seahawks are making a run, so we'll see what happens. One super annoying thing that happens to me every football season is I'm on the couch watching the game, and I run out of a beverage. My beverage is empty, so I got to go get another beverage out of the fridge, which is, it's not a long ways away, but I'm comfortable. I've got my pillows situated, my bag of chips, and I got to get up. Does that ever happen to you? Is that annoying?
I wouldn't say annoying, but yeah, it happens to me.
I have a low bar for annoying. Well, that's where our friends at Lounge Rover come in. You now no longer have to get up to retrieve your beverage of choice. With a quick flip of a switch, your armchair turns into a lowrider vehicle that can navigate you to the kitchen and back without getting up. It can reach speeds of up to 12 miles per hour and comes equipped with a drink chiller to keep your beverage cold and frosty on the commute back to the TV. What's even more amazing is it runs on one lithium-ion battery, so no carbon emissions, and you can even equip it with knobby tires if you have to traverse across Legos, beer cans, or other items that might be strewn across the floor. It comes in 16 different fabric choices and will be available for online purchases sometime later this year. Stay tuned for Lounge Rover coming to a store near you in 2026, and never leave the couch.
Now that I've enjoyed running my own company for 8 or 9 years, I wish I had taken that step a bit earlier. So I kind of worked for the man, if we even call the Navy the man, worked for the man for quite a while. Essentially 85 until 2017, when I spun up the company now. And if I could do that piece over again, I'd spin it up 5 years earlier.
Yeah, that's good. I was speaking at a class one time, and one of the students came up to me and asked me that question, said, "Hey, do you have any regrets?" And it was out of the blue, and I thought, I'm not prepared for this question, but I thought about it, and I sort of in that category. My response was, I think I would have taken more risks along the way, where I was maybe a little bit conservative at times, and that seems to kind of, jumping into running your own company, you've got a lot of fulfillment out of that, sounds like. So
I have, and I'm fortunate, a great business partner, and we've hired a third. But back to what you said. So I don't know about you guys, but I did. So my father was an attorney, and very close family. He stayed at the same firm for 32 years, and as I sort of headed off, red handkerchief on the end of the stick, heading down the driveway and out to see what the world threw my way. He did express a few times exactly that, Gary. He said, "I wish I had been prepared to take more risk professionally during my life."
Interesting.
That was a guidepost for me, and I was never, if you look at where I've worked and geographically and moving and all this nonsense, I think I've learned from watching Dad and almost did the other extreme, where we were never afraid to move, and I was never afraid to move and never afraid to try something new.
Yeah.
And an awful lot of what we are, I think, is either emulating our parents or going the exact opposite direction. I think on this one, I went the other way.
Did he express that early in your life, or was that something that happened later in his life?
Young adulthood for me. So as he approached retirement, and we talked a lot, he did two things that he regretted. One is he retired too early, and he was in his late 50s. And there were some other reasons why, not to do with health, but what was going on in the firm at the time, that he just decided, okay, I'm out. And then they moved to Vashon Island, and love Vashon. I mean, we've been to Nick's Place, et cetera, but it is a vacation and retirement community, largely speaking. And they moved to the southern end, and you could just see his socializing and all the importance that we all hear now, how important that is to stay socially connected. You could see that wither. And he was a very social guy, and suffered as a result. All of which to say, I've tried to stay engaged, stay professionally engaged, quite a bit older than he did, 4 years longer than after he retired. And I think it's no longer for the money.
We talked a little bit about the advice part, and we try and ask this question, and you hit upon some of it. But if you were gonna sit in front of one young person today, and it doesn't have to be about work or anything like related to that, but if you were going to give them one piece of life advice, is there a nugget that you would pass on?
For the sake of learning, because you never know. And my example is German. Who the heck knew? It happened to be the thing that got me into Enron, got me the real start in this industry. I didn't take German. I took German because my mom spoke some German and she could help me on the homework. No greater plan than that. But I think there is a tendency, I've seen it in kind of my daughter's peer group, to sort of think career, think application of everything they're learning. And I just hope people, young people, learn stuff just for the joy of learning it. You never know. It may also prove useful to you too.
Right.
And that, I think, is my big fear and my big concern, as I see that, everybody for a while, everyone needed to be a coder. I just really hope that the younger generations will continue to be given the opportunity that we were all given to kind of meander along academically. At least my parents were big proponents of that. And explore. And that, and as a final point on that, I would say into college, continue that. And that's what I love about the U.S. University system. In England, I mean, these late teens would go basically off to medical school. There wasn't this undergraduate period of exploration. And I love to think that we're going to, current environment, et cetera. It's a little hostile to university right now, but I like to think we will retain that and defend that as part of the learning and maturation that goes on in these kids.
I got one last question for you, Christopher. You can go anywhere in time at any point, and you can pick one person in time that you want to go have a cup of coffee with, and just ask questions and learn about them, learn, where they're at and what their headspace was. So who would that be? What time period would that be? What's the story?
So we have this conversation around the dinner table. I don't know what that says about us, but
okay.
I've pondered this for years and years and years.
Okay.
I would have loved it to be Lewis, Clark, and McKey. I wish I was the third in the Lewis and Clark expeditions. I think.
Oh, really?
This country at that time, can you imagine the beauty? Can you imagine the wildness? Can you, what they saw, what they experienced, et cetera? And, early mid 1800s, westward migration, that whole period with all of the demands it put on people to do a lot of things. And I know there are some ugly elements to all of that, and I'm choosing to overlook those in my sort of dramatic view of that period. Andre would say, well, But didn't they live in sod houses with venomous centipedes in the walls?
That won't do it all.
Probably. Didn't they die of rabies and rabbit starvation? Yeah, probably.
That's the best part. The rabies. It's a lot of fun.
I'm actually picturing you walking up and elbowing Sacagawea out of the way and stepping into number 3 position on that.
But I would, sitting down with one of those two and just really hearing what they, hearing what they saw, hearing what they experienced, being some of the first interactions with Native American, it would have been a fascinating period.
If you were on that team, do you think they would have arrived sooner or later?
I'd like to think.
Would there have been a shortcut? Would there be like the McKey pass somewhere in there? Hey, you guys, this is it. This is a shortcut.
Stopped and went skiing in Colorado and never picked it back up again.
I have cul-de-sacs named after me and dead ends. No Hope Trail. Oh, yeah, that was him.
Right. Bunch of names of,
But
the McKey pass.
The serious side of what you say, I mean, what is the optimal size of a deal team these days? You add one too many bodies and you do slow down.
Yeah.
I suspect they had it about right with 2, and they'd have said, "Tell you what, we'll meet you in Oregon. We'll look for you when we get to Oregon. You go that way. We'll go this way."
You were more of a Donner Party kind of guy, I suspect.
That's good. I like that. Lewis and Clark. I haven't heard that one yet. I like that. So
I'm when we go driving or hiking in like even the freeways that go through wooded areas, I just cannot imagine how they made any progress through those trees.
Oh, I know.
At any rate.
And can you imagine the Olympic Peninsula when it was basically old growth from the Pacific coast to Hood Canal?
It's amazing.
And the Columbia River with 40 million salmon chugging up it. I mean, it's just totally
it is. Yeah, it's amazing. And you think now if they came back now and they saw the Lewis and Clark markers along the interstate system, they say, well, this seems easier now.
Why did it take us so darn long?
Why didn't we think of this? Look at all this asphalt.
I think your contribution would be you just pull out your GPS and help them along back in the day.
Exactly. Right. Hey, my phone says this way, guys. What are you doing?
I don't know what you guys are doing.
There's a road up here. Exit 37 on this one.
Well, Christopher, you've been very generous with your time with us, so we appreciate you.
Fun. I don't know if any of this is worth a darn, but really,
no, it's great.
It's actually fun to talk to you guys.
So, for sure. Well, thanks for spending the time with us, and and then hopefully we'll launch these things soon, and you'll be a return guest someday. That'll be the goal.
Love it. All right, guys.
With 3 trips, you get a mug.
That's right. You have to earn a mug for sure. So thank you, Christopher. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
All right.
Take care. Bye.